Hey, Sarah.
Hey. As far as like the board vacancy, do we need to like vote on it and record it and have it? Can we like enact that when we get it done, or is that something that needs to take place like after this meeting?
No, you could do it tonight.
Okay.
Yeah. You could just, I don't know if you want to open it up or if there's somebody that's volunteered, or that's up to you guys.
Yeah, we've reached out to a few people and heard back from someone, so I think we're all on the same page for that.
Yeah, so when we get to that point, you guys can just make a motion, and then after the fact, we can send out just a resolution, kind of like ratifying it, so. So you guys tell me when you, I know we're a little bit, like a minute early. Do you want to wait a few minutes, or do you want to start?
I would say right at like maybe in a minute, like 1 minute. That just gives everybody a minute. And then if people come in, they come in.
I'm trying to figure out how to get my video up. Here we go. Hello.
Hi.
Okay.
You want to start?
Go ahead, Gina.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining. It looks like we have all of the current board members since David's gone. And I'm just curious, did he move somewhere local or like completely somewhere else?
Downtown Salt Lake.
Oh, okay. It happened so fast. I was like, anyway, yeah. So then Zach and I are also on the call. Feel free to stop or add anything at any time. We are recording the meeting, so I'll send that to you guys after. Anyway, the first item, I will turn some time over to Sarah because David, as I mentioned, has moved out of the community. And so I think the board has some ideas for replacement.
Yeah, so we reached out to a couple of homeowners that either ran at the last elections or had shown interest on the Facebook page. And out of all the people we reached out to, we got a hold of Annika, who is here on the meeting. Oh, yeah. And we extended that to Annika. And as far as I heard, she is willing and wanting and ready to accept that. And she understands that it would be just until the elections in September, and that she'll be working with Zach as far as treasurer goes. Is that right, Annika?
Yep, that's how I understood it.
All right. So then far as we've done all the back work on that with texting her and things like that. So I am fine with moving forward with a motion to vote Annika in to fill David's position for the remainder of the term.
Okay, is there a second?
Second that motion.
Okay. And
Is muted.
all in favor? I'm sure you're all in favor.
Yeah,
Yes.
I.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Well,
Thanks, Annika.
Annika, we will send out a resolution, just a formal appointment for you.
Okay.
And I'll send that via DocuSign to Sarah and Jess.
Okay.
And then it'll be all official. So speaking of the vacancies that are coming up in September, do you want us to start sending some stuff out to solicit people who are interested, or how have you handled that in the past? That's usually what we do.
So how it's been handled in the past is that we would get an email a couple weeks before the annual election that said, if you wanted to have your name on the ballot, send in a maintenance request, or action item is what they called it. And
Okay.
then people could use proxies and then collect as many proxies as they could, either on their own behalf if they were running, or on the behalf of somebody else. And I think
Right.
that created a lot of problems as far as
Right.
voting goes. My personal opinion is I would like it to be more election type style, as far as here's the deadline if you want to be on the ballot, you know, if you want to include a little paragraph about yourself so everybody can see why you want to be on the board. And then we have like an election night where they can either send in their ballots to you prior with the deadline and then vote in person the night of. And then when the results are announced, have that be in conjunction with result numbers, not just names.
Okay. Wait a second, have it be in conjunction with numbers, like,
So like if it says like, my spot's not up, but let's say I ran again and I got the position, it would say like Sarah got 52 votes and Melissa got
Oh, gotcha.
32 votes, like just so there's more of a understanding of what the voting results were for the community.
yeah. Yeah, that sounds good. Okay. Then we'll work with you as it gets a little bit closer. That's how we've done it with other HOAs is, you know, they can fill out a proxy form that evening or email me a scan copy and we keep track of those votes for you. So,
Okay.
okay. Yeah, great. So I'm going to turn some time over to Zach over the financials.
Hey everyone. So just real quick, I guess on this one, fund balance sheet, the big thing to kind of note is the due from operating due to reserves. The 33,000 that needs to get transferred would be the reserve funding that needed to get started and is kind of in arrears. Partly, as you can see, the HOA Management Trust doesn't have quite the balance to kind of make that contribution.
Hey, Zach, do you mind sharing your screen, please? Is that possible?
Yeah, I can see it.
Oh, maybe it's just me then. Okay, never mind. Thank you.
So to get that caught up where it needs to be for the current year funding, didn't want to deplete operating. A little bit of it has to do with working on the receivables. So getting some of the homeowners who are a little bit behind to get caught up would significantly help. We can talk about that later on, but other than that, on the opposite side, the liability side, there's a reserve accounts payable that is the approved railings bid. We have finally gotten a W-9 from him, but we are waiting for his certificate of insurance before I just send over funds to him. So That's there,
I
it's
think-
marked.
Sorry, go ahead, Zach.
No, I was just gonna say, it's there, it's marked, it's in the financials, just has not been paid yet, and coordinating the start time.
Yeah, I was gonna mention, I called him again today in preparation for this, and I just got his voicemail, so I left a message. But both Zach and I have done quite a bit of contact with him, so.
Has he been responsive or no?
He's responsive at least from my side, is he's responsive when you bug him, but he doesn't follow through.
So-
Until you,
That's my experience.
I was gonna say, from my opinion, that's not responsive. I shouldn't have to bug you for a response, and then if you don't follow through on what you say you're going to do after I bug you, that's still out of the category of being responsive.
well, sure, I guess what I was meaning is he at least answers the phone call, but doesn't follow through.
Okay.
Gina, can you, and maybe I'm jumping ahead too much, but can you pull up from our last meeting the other two bid options? Do we want to consider that, or do we want to keep trying?
I don't know, both Zach and I have questioned that because it's kind of been difficult, and it seems pretty simple. So, and he promised he'd have it a couple weeks ago. We could definitely, go through those. Let me pull them up and see.
And Zach, just to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying while Gina pulls that up, back up to the due to reserves, the 33,292. Are you saying that that should be more than it is, or?
No, that's what it should be. So when reserve funding finally got started, I think in May, it's missing January through April. And getting that caught up where it should be would have depleted operations.
Okay.
Can you guys see that?
Yes.
These three bids, okay. LMAC Metal, Positive Reality, and then Revived Customs.
And who it's been with Positive, right? That you've been working with. So for 500, not even $400 difference.
Yeah, I mean, we could go that route and just see how soon LMAC could get it scheduled. How do you feel, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, I do have some reserves, I guess, about Positive Reality due to his responsiveness. So potentially moving forward with a vendor who at least could take on and complete the work within a reasonable time frame and responsive, and it seems like a better route, but I'm not positive. I don't. LMAC Metal could end up being the same way.
I just think like you've given this guy forever long, and if that's going to be a reflection of how he does his work or finishing the work or working with him, it's worth looking into other people. Not saying we have to jump ship, but like we might get all the things we need from this other company in a few days and have a date and can move forward and put that other guy behind us, because he's a big, it's hard to like follow up with people all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. I have the bid from, I have one from Pro Welding, but I don't know if I have the LMAC. Did you send all those to me, Sarah?
Yeah, so I forwarded, when they came in, I forwarded them to
Okay,
you.
I'll find it. All right.
So maybe we just reach out and say what's like timeline of availability and then go from there.
I don't think
Yeah.
there's any harm in calling or emailing them and saying, you know, being very, very clear from the beginning, this is what we need. We need insurance, W-9, schedule availability, and then go from there.
Okay,
Okay.
sounds good. We'll do that. We'll proceed that way. I kind of hijacked Zach's financials, so.
Well, you're fine. So outside of that, fund balances, operating fund surplus and reserve fund surplus or deficit, depending on which way it goes. And everything is on accrual. So if this was switched to cash basis, things would look a little bit different. But you can do that. You can switch it by kind of backing out the payables and receivables and prepaid expense. So if there isn't major questions here, we can move on to the next statement. All right, I call this one Statement of Revenues, Expenses, and Changes in Fund Balance. This shows what's happening between operating fund and reserve fund and the transfer between the two. So currently, everything's booked. So that 33,000 is booked in the financials. It just hasn't quite been paid. But on a monthly basis from May and continuing forward, about $8,300 is transferred from operating to reserves to fund based off of the reserve report. And there is not a major amount of difference between the months. I guess the thing to note would be showing where there is the railing repair that is shown in the reserve fund on the year-to-date side. And the change between what's transferred from operating and then paid out for the repair is going to be that bottom line net change in fund balance, about 13. Is there any questions related to this, concerns? Obviously, there is about so far $50 of interest earned on the UCCU account. And one other thing to note would be about $600 of late fees that were credited back to homeowners.
Where would we see the Hunt Electric, or would that be located at on this document?
2021.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to dig into that one a little bit. I'm going to dive through the general ledger that we were provided with, see if there is anything in there. Outside of that, again, we've never received bank statements from ACS, so clearly cross-referencing what's in the financials versus what was actually paid out, I can't do.
Well,
Billy,
and
did you guys-
we realized today that Hunt Electric is an outstanding bill, right?
Yes.
Right, that's why I was asking is, we thought that it had been paid by ACS. What was you guys' impression?
We
From
didn't
what-
even know about it.
Yeah, from what just when so when we very first met as a board at Billy's house, this came up, and Susan was the only board member at the time that had any knowledge about it. And Billy and Melissa will have to correct me if I'm wrong, but from my understanding, it was paid and done. They were just waiting for the work to be completed because they couldn't get parts.
Correct. They were just waiting on the pole or something like that to upright.
I was unsure if it had been paid in full, and I thought at one of our meetings we had asked that it get checked into to make sure it was paid off, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
I called them last week, and then I actually called again today and spoke to a couple people. They were certain that it hadn't been paid, and I asked about if it was completed, and I remember the board had wanted us to get a copy of the contract. So, I mean, we have basically the estimate and the bid. I have a copy of it in here too, but anyway, she said it's complete. They weren't going to paint it. It was just standard silver poles.
And we put 0 down, like they did all the work without any money down.
That's what she says. I'll just go there really quick.
I mean, in and of itself, like, I'm just shocked, actually shocked that 2 light posts were approved for almost $20,000. That in and of itself, like Melissa's bringing up, I'm even more surprised that Hunt didn't request somewhat of a down payment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seems a little odd. I mean, the invoice date February 24th, 2022, but scroll down to the bid.
This is only for 2 poles.
Yeah.
The
Oh
bid
my
was
word.
obtained inside July 23rd, 2021.
So Jess, just so you know, the poles that this is talking about are the 2 solar poles, one at my entrance, and I believe the other one is at the smaller park in the neighborhood. I'm not 100% on that location.
It is.
But okay, so that's
right
what
there.
this is. So the previous board approved $19,730 for those 2 poles to be cemented in and then have the solar light attached to it. And we're just now finding out that according to Hunt Electric, $0 has been paid on that work and they are completed.
Yeah. Yeah, they just, in fact, barely emailed us because, and I don't know, I think I forwarded you guys the email. It got sent to Ryan. And then he said, we don't manage that community. And then they resent it to Ryan. And then Ryan copied or sent it to Tom or something. So we just got it. Who's Melissa in that Pleasant Grove address? That's not you, Melissa. You see that 1185 West, 950 North?
That's the Melissa that the bid is from. Melissa, we're pleased to, oh, I don't know who Melissa is.
Okay.
That it's not a previous board member, so I'm assuming it's somebody at ACS.
Okay.
Let me dive into the general ledger. I haven't had time to get to that because we just got aware of this today. So give me some time to kind of see where it sits and if it is in 2021 data and go from there.
Okay. As far as the ledger, Zach, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but if I remember correctly, at our last meeting with you and Gina, we are 70% funded on the total, what we need for the reserve study. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Do you know what that dollar amount of that 30% would be to bring us to fully funded?
Off the top of my head. No, I can look real quick.
Sorry, I got kicked out and I'm back, but let me know if I missed anything.
I'm just because I just asked Zach at our last meeting, we were about 70% funded for the total reserve. And so he's just figuring out really quickly the dollar amount that 30% necessary to be fully funded would be, so we can have an idea of how far behind we are.
Awesome, thank you.
It looks like right around 90,000.
Okay, thank you.
The 90,000 is the 30% dollar amount,
Yeah.
correct? Okay, just double checking.
We can move on. If no more questions on this one, we can move to the statement of cash flows. This is a kind of just a quick statement of cash flows. One thing to note would be the transfer between the funds. So between operating reserves, what's actually moved is about $63,000. Part of that is the 58. The 58,000 that actually was for 2021's reserve funding that got transferred this year. And then other than that, it's just changes between accounts receivable, prepaids, and accounts payable. Any questions here? And then this last one would be just tracking along with the budget versus actuals. And outside of reserve funding, everything is tracking relatively in line with what was expected through the budget.
So what is your suggestion to get in line with the reserves?
So I was just talking to Gina about this. With the 33 that needs to get transferred, the 19 for the Hunt Electric, if that actually needs paid, I would think doing a $350 special assessment, one-time special assessment on every homeowner will at least allow that transfer to happen, keep the operating cash where it's at, and an increase to the dues of either $15 to $25 will start allowing some contributions back into the reserves where we can slowly bring it up over a couple of years, and some surplus to start doing a little bit more projects throughout the development.
Where do you get the $15 to $25 amount?
A lot of that is just based off of getting the reserves back in line with where it could be over 2 to 3 year period. The other part of it is just allowing a little bit of surplus in there for some upgrades to some of the stuff. And it's mostly an estimate versus very detailed numbers.
Okay, because the 90,000 divided by 145 homes, and I guess maybe I'm looking at it wrong. We don't need it immediately. That's why you say the 2 to 3 year period.
Yeah.
Okay.
Zach, when you do a special assessment, how does that work? How long do people usually have to pay that?
That is going to be based off the CC&Rs. don't know specifics on what it is for the board. But if I'm not mistaken, it also has a little bit of discretion on how the board would like to move forward with that special assessment. If they want to give everyone 3 months to get it paid.
Yeah, we have one association that, that gave a year when they did a special assessment, and they just broke it down in monthly payments, but that's difficult to manage on our end. Yeah, it's really up to the board. I was just trying to find the CCNRs.
Yeah, I mean, at $350, it's kind of 2 months worth of dues. So maybe putting a due date 2 months out from the date of the approval of that special assessment.
Wait, you said a special assessment of 350 or 650?
350.
Oh, that sounds way better.
Yeah, that
I
gives,
was like,
That gives us 50,750 though. So what would happen to the other 3,500 or 30,000-ish dollars?
That comes over the course of the 2-year period.
So we're talking about doing both.
Yeah, that would be a special assessment of 350 is about $50,000, and then over the 2-year period, anywhere from 15 to 25 increase in actual dues. So going from 175 to, let's say, 200 a month.
Okay.
yes.
I mean, I'm more than willing to talk about it more. I think that in order to like mitigate upheaval from the neighborhood, I think it would be really prudent for us to have either everything locked down, decisions made, ready to present this as part of the financials for the year to date in September, or to have an individual meeting just regarding financials, dues, special assessments for the neighborhood.
That is doable. I can put together exactly where the reserve funding sits, what needs to still be transferred of that 33, potential impact of the $19,000 from Han Electric, and what it would show moving forward with an increase of either $15 to $25.
That would be very helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Zach.
Of course.
So we could send, well, after Zach prepares that, we could send something out to the board via email, and then you can decide if you wanted to schedule like an extra meeting to go over finances, so.
I think that would, my opinion is that would be the best for the neighborhood, because then people can attend, they can ask their questions, they can get clarity. It's not just a, this is the way it is, and then we kind of like scramble to answer questions, and it's not just an email. There's a lot of like back and forth and clarity.
Yeah, it's taken us, I know Zach was planning on having well, he knew better where we would sit in June or July, just based on how things came in with the association, so. That's
Zach,
good.
oh, sorry, Gina.
That's okay.
Zach, I was just going to ask you, is for part of that meeting that we're talking about, as far as their financials and everything, when you look at that master ledger that was sent by ACS, can you also do like a side-by-side comparison of expenditures, because it's got 2 years on it versus this year, as far as like reimbursements for the last 2 years versus this year and things of that nature?
Sure.
Okay.
And just to get an idea of one, that's going to take a lot of auditing over that. What is a time frame that you are comfortable with on that?
I mean, normally they do the year-to-date financials in September at the annual meeting, so that would give you 2 months if we scheduled towards the end of September.
Okay. Okay. That sounds good.
And I will dig up the information on, special assessments to see if it's specifically addressed in the CCNRs. Okay,
And we had a
comment, yeah.
sorry, there was a comment in the chat just talking about inflation rate, saying the last reserve study was a much lower assumption rate of inflation than this year's actually, happened. I don't know if that could be updated at all, or if that's taken into account.
That's not quite. Yeah, the what's taken into account is going to be based off of what the reserve study that has been done has. Getting a new reserve study done has a potential impact of having everything change drastically. Yeah, increase. So instead of a $15 to $25, it could be closer to a $50, $75 increase.
So never mind about
numbers.
inflation.
Well, but to Zach's point, and Zach, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but if I remember right, the roofs were at like 1.2 million for the reserve study. And I'm sure would be significantly more than that just based on inflation alone. So that's gonna change numbers significantly.
Yeah, I think, Jaden, great question. I think what would end up happening, because in the time that it would take to get another reserve study in place and then increase dues according to what hyperinflation has actually changed the numbers to, personally, I'd rather see us have the step up in our association fees. If it's $15, if it's $25, then do that reserve study and find out how far off that number is from where we actually need to be, and do another step up, just to kind of, I feel like everybody's getting hit with these economic pressures and winds from every direction. So to try to turn around and say, okay, well, now your HOA assessment is $50 more, $75 more. It might be a little easier for households and families to ramp up on where we can get to be in a good space right now, knowing that we're not in a bad space right now, but then what step we need to take in the next one to get to where we need to be to account for inflation.
There's also limitations.
I think that's a great point.
There's
Sorry,
also,
I just said I think that's
no,
a great
you're
point.
okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
There's also limitations in our CCNRs how much we're allowed to raise dues annually. So we couldn't go past that. It's 13.07 is the section that it talks about it.
Is that something, I know with many of the other developments we have, so there's a certain percentage that the board is allowed to approve without any communication from any of the other homeowners. Anything above that percentage would need all the homeowners to vote on that. Is that correct, Gina? Is that how the other ones work?
Yeah, it is. I was just trying to find in the CCNRs where it was,
And also looking at the reserve report, the roofs expected price in the future in 10 years, well, I guess 11 years, 2033, is just under $750,000, so 737,000.
Yeah, so Gina, if you could pull up the CCNRs, it's section 13.07, and it's
Sure.
maximum annual assessment, and then it talks about special assessment under it.
so, oh yeah, here they are. This is 15%, yeah.
Yeah, so we're limited to that, right? I'm
So,
interpreting
right.
it correctly.
Yeah, and a $25 increase would only be about 14%. So you guys would just right at that.
And then 13.9 uniform rate of assessment all monthly. shall be fixed.
And is that per calendar year, or is that for like 2022 and then 2023?
It says January 1st of the calendar year,
Okay.
but then in 13, a monthly and special salary. However, that'll fully improved with the unit and occupied for the first. So the monthly and special assessments applicable to such lot shall be 1/3 of the monthly and special assessments, which would otherwise apply to such lot during the period of time that declarant holds the class. Well, declarant's gone. Class. So the declarant. Okay. So that you said 25 would be 14%, Zach?
Yes.
And then these. So such special assessment must be assent by a majority of the votes of the membership. So they have to vote on it. By proxy. Okay. So yeah, so we have to have it and present it, and then I have to vote on it for the majority of votes. And then the increase to dues cannot exceed 15% a calendar year.
We typically see dues increases, well, it depends on how it's needed, but at the beginning of the calendar year, did you typically do it in September?
Do what do you do what? I'm sorry.
Any dues increase. If it was adopted in September, it wouldn't be effective.
They haven't been
November.
increased. They haven't been increased for like 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
Oh, Mitch said the passport is in January.
That makes sense to present it and then implement it with the new calendar year.
How does that line up, Zach, with your projections? I know you'll have to get more detailed information, but.
I think that would work out fine. That the special assessment would really cover current year deficit stuff. The special assessment would go into effect January 1st, and it would help with bringing the reserves back to where they need to be over the course of a couple of years. So yeah, that if that hit January next year, that's fine.
What happens when we have situations with homeowners that do not pay the special assessment? What is the order of operations preceding that?
A lien on their property. It's almost like collections, the collections process now.
Yeah, it would be based off of what's in the CC&Rs also.
And typically, if somebody sells their unit before the special assessment is paid, they're required to pay that. It doesn't transfer to the new owner.
How do you guys have a normal time frame you work with for the special assessment, like X amount of months or weeks or whatnot, before you start talking about collections and things like that?
Yeah, we had a development in Heber that did a special assessment of 360, and they allowed it to be paid in monthly payments. So, but it effectively looks like it was a dues increase, but it wasn't. So it's just like any delinquency where, 30 to 60 days, they would be reaching out and trying to get them to, get everything caught up.
So we get the assessment, people are notified of it, and they have 30 to 60 days to pay it with their dues monthly.
Well, it's up to the board, however the board wants to set it up.
Yeah, that was just an example. I think it's if we say, hey, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, then in 3 months it's anticipated to be paid. Then they have 30 days after that 3-month period before they hit collection, 60 days before the lien would be assessed.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think, I agree, some good education would need to take place, so we can work on that with you guys. Is there any other questions on Zach's financials or the financials?
No, thank you again, Zach, for the information.
Of course.
Zach, for the next one, can we just take off recycling and cable TV?
So yeah, I mean, on the annual budget comparison, I can take off cable TV. Garbage and recycling is just the name of the general ledger account. It's strictly
Okay.
garbage. Yeah. Cable TV is on I mean, it's basically an income statement, but it's statement of changes, revenues, expenses, and changes in fund balance. That has the cable TV on it because 2021 had that expense. So it's showing that comparative year.
Okay. So I was just going to go over some site updates. I know the board passed and we've implemented the new parking updates. And how I just wanted to get some feedback on how you think that's going. Does it seem to help?
Yeah, I think it's actually been working really well.
Okay.
That's what I've seen so far. I don't know if anyone else has different vibes, but I think it's been pretty good.
Initially, we had quite a bit of, you know, like reports of parking that needed to be followed up on, and it seems to have slowed down. So I think people have gotten the message about parking. So, all right, great. This might be a little bit preliminary to even go through, but this was the bid that we got from Boulder a bit ago on shrubs in the development. I know you guys did a walk with Ray and you're going to do another one Friday. Is that right?
Yeah, Ray won't be there Friday, but Pedro and Alfonso will be. And then the following Friday, Ray said he'll be available.
Okay. So do you guys just want to kind of table this bid on the shrubs until like down the road?
I have a really hard time. Go ahead, Melissa.
Oh, I was gonna say, for me, I have a hard time even talking about replacing shrubs or adding shrubs until they can prove to me that there's water going to. Right now, I have so many dead shrubs that were planted last fall that clearly aren't even getting water. So I thought for me, that is like a first step.
Yeah,
If that makes sense.
no, that's what I was thinking too. We had it as a follow-up item, so we'll just kind of put that off to the side. We do have a few, some people reach out asking for that their shrubs be replaced. We can just continue to keep track of that.
So something else to say about that too, because I've been in their position. I feel like if there are certain homes asking for a shrub replacement, like maybe we could go with Boulder and make sure there's water there and give them their shrubs. I just don't think like we can go through the whole neighborhood and rip them out and put them in like they did in the fall.
Right.
Because now we have so many dead ones.
Okay.
But I
So you
think
do
if there's a
want-
home like that had a shrub, they should be able that back. Because I've been there.
Sorry. They should be able to get a replacement. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Or
Melissa,
it's
Melissa,
missing some out and didn't even put.
Melissa, we can't hear you.
Okay.
breaking up really bad.
Got it.
Is she frozen now?
Looks like it. Well, we'll just address them on a one-by-one, a case-by-case basis is what I'm thinking you're saying. Is that right?
Yeah, I would be comfortable with you emailing the homeowners that have reached out asking for the shrubs and letting them know that we're working in conjunction with Boulder to make sure that there's adequate drip lines before we, and from what I understand with Ray and our meeting, he made it very clear that things should look very different in the next 2 weeks regarding landscaping. And so I would feel more comfortable waiting to see how that goes and what results are produced from the walkthroughs before we add another $5,000 worth of bushes that potentially won't get adequate water.
Okay, sounds good. No, I agree. So we'll just kind of table that one. There are several work orders. Some of these I think have been addressed or is in the process of being addressed on sprinkler updates and landscaping. Most of them were surrounding dry or stressed grass and sprinklers that don't seem to be coming on. So all of those with Pedro, he's supposed to report back to us on an update for how that's going. I'm hopeful after Friday that it will be a lot better. So.
Yeah, so when the stop and waste was overflowing, Melissa and Billy and I were able to meet out there with Ray. And Ray assured me at that time that all the sprinklers are functioning. That was not the case on a couple of sprinklers that we looked at during the walkthrough. We also did not go to each section and turn them on like we had talked about the day prior with Ray, because he said he didn't have the 4 to 5 hours to do so. So on Friday, when we're doing the walkthrough with Pedro and Alfonso, I expect all the sections to be turned on and looked at. It would have been beneficial to have known about these work orders at that walkthrough to at least assess them, but we can do that moving forward.
Well, and when we get a sprinkler work order, we immediately forward it to Boulder Landscaping, and so they are aware. But yeah, we'll communicate with them through the week as it gets closer to Friday. So is it the board that's meeting with them, or there's nobody from our office that's coming, right?
Zach's coming.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, he gets a long weekend out of it, huh, Zach?
Yeah.
Yeah, Zach will be there. And then now that I've got these work items, I can at least go through those bare minimum with Ray. Was there a reason or like something else that was going on that led to your recommendation about looking back at Viridian?
No, only because, and it was a little discouraging, honestly. It was just the amount of complaints that we kept getting, and then we would send them to Boulder, and just being told that everything worked fine and it didn't. So I was just like, well, no. And honestly, truthfully, also because of the blowing things, how they were blowing them on the porches, we reached out to them so many times, and so that was frustrating on our part. So anyway, but I think we're on the same page.
Yeah, I would just kind of like go along with what Ray said, and in 2 weeks, if things are not fully functioning, if water conditions are not significantly improved, if landscaping as a whole has not significantly increased, then we need to have a board meeting with Ray, and you and Zach as well, to really not have any gray area as far as what is being paid for and what is expected versus what is actually being produced.
Right. No, I agree.
Absolutely. And what I'll say is I'm out there to make sure Ray is following through on his end.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's why I was really, I was glad Zach could go last Friday, but I thought it was important for us to be there as well, not just you guys and Boulder, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just, things that were concerning to me is, you know, the day prior, Ray assured me that all the sprinklers were functioning, but then we watched workers work until like 8:30 p.m. repairing sprinklers that prior hadn't been assessed or repaired. It was disconcerting, or no, concerning to hear him say, we're going to walk through and turn on every section. But then when the actual meeting came, he didn't have the time available. So we'll see what the next 2 weeks look like and then have a real
Come to Jesus.
serious conversation. Yeah.
That sounds good. Okay. Well, so I'm just we'll put a pin in those sprinkler updates. And I will also work with Ray. There's a couple of things that he needed to follow up with me on, and one of them is this next item. Do you guys see this tree limb that's shading the car?
Uh-huh.
The person that has this parking space has asked that it be pruned back. I guess it drops stuff on their car. I don't know how the board feels about it. I did ask Ray, this was a couple of weeks ago, that I asked him if he could tell me if, number one, it would be advisable to prune it, and number two, in the heat right now, if that's a good time to do it. And I was gonna get all that information before I presented it to the board, so I will follow up with him. But do you guys have any opinions or feedback on that?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Am I choppy?
No.
No.
He said he was going to send an arborist out, like free of charge, to give us a whole breakdown of why half the trees are dead, if it's a disease, or what needs to be removed, what the cost would be. A lot of those trees that produce fruit, I guess you can spray when it's like 80% bloom and like it doesn't produce a lot of fruit. I don't know what the cost is for that, but I know that's irritating for the people that have a lot of fruit like dropping near their home. And I think like pruning the trees and stuff would be under that. I don't know. That's what did you think, Sarah? That was the gist I got from that.
Yeah, that's what Ray said. He said it twice throughout the meeting that he could send an arborist in, and for the same reasons Melissa said, to assess the pine trees, to see if there's a disease in it that's spreading. If so, what the treatment is, whether it's, you know, borers in the ground or an infestation in the trunks. And like she said, he talked about spraying the trees to help lessen the amount of fruit and droppings that produce. Because like this tree here, from what I understand, this isn't like one of the fruit cherry trees, but this is like the tree I have in my front home. I don't know what they are, but they are a mess. And I actually park my car under one just like this, and it's just kind of been something that has been annoying. I know that some tree trimming back from the sidewalks took place was that fall or spring? So it's not an entirely uncommon or new thing to the development, but if Ray has an arborist that is willing to talk to us about that, I don't have a problem with that. I also, if we're just talking about one branch, I don't know how big of a job that really is. So I would assume that could be done quicker than not. But like you're saying, Gina, I don't want to like chop it off in July and kill the tree because it was the wrong time to do it.
Right. So I'll follow up with him about the arborist. And I did ask, because there is tree trimming in their contract, and so I asked if this was in that scope, but we'll follow up on that as well. So.
And that sounds great. I would feel more comfortable with trimming versus spraying to lessen anything, because the world needs more pollination and bees right now. So just my 2 cents.
No, that's good, Jess. Just to be clear, we couldn't do that spray until next spring anyway, because everything's already germinated and producing.
Sounds good.
Okay.
But now everyone has heard my opinion.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So the next item I have is just some general fence repairs at different spaces in the development. This is a section where they want the top rail and the bottom rail to be replaced so it holds those slats in, and that's on a side yard, as you can tell. We have reached out to get a couple of bids from Elite Fencing, and Michelle was actually handling that. So I have not seen a bid for this, but and then you'll see on the right-hand side the holes that are in the fence there. We did reach out to the owner on, this is the whole issue with the property being deeded to the owner next door. We did reach out to her on the fence. She said those holes were there before, I don't know if it was moved in, but she did not create those holes. So we can get some bids to have those repaired. And then this is another one that we got a work order for. You'll see the back part of the fence here looks like they want it extended all the way to the rear fence line. So
If that's up on the hill, isn't the bottom couple feet cinder block?
yeah.
So how does that work with tying in?
So, I mean, as I'm looking at it, it just seems like it would have to be a small piece.
Because like if we were going to put another pole in there, it looks like you'd get one slat in there, right? Give or take.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was actually last month, requested a bid for this, and I will have Michelle follow up. Well, not just for the fencing in general, but this is something that is covered, this type of fence, right? You've
Yeah,
covered in
the
past.
HOA owns all the fencing, yes.
Just to throw out there, we have some slats over by the shed. So before we just go purchasing brand new slats, I think there's like perfectly good ones that if we're gonna like repair those holes or whatever, those might just work there.
Right here.
I think there's even some packaged ones in the shed.
Are
Okay.
there?
I think. I mean, I can definitely go look.
Well, that would be helpful. So as we get a bid for this one here, we will send that out to the board also, and then we'll look into, I'll follow up with Sarah on the extra fence pieces, so. This one is, it's a rear door that they wanted to have the door frame replaced, but because it's a rear door, we're gonna let them know that's not an HOA responsibility. I know that the stucco issue in the backyard.
Wait. Why do you think the exterior door is not HOA responsibility?
In the backyard, is it?
Yeah, and
Go ahead,
sorry,
Jess.
go ahead. Well, I was gonna say there was a whole thing with replacing back doors a few years back. I don't know if someone who's been here. It was like proven that some of them were rotting. So there was a repair, and I think there was even a lawsuit, but I'm not positive.
Yeah, so on the CCNRs, when it talks about like the description of a lot and a unit, and if you read that in conjunction with the section where it talks about all exterior surfaces is I think where things get a little hairy, but all exterior surfaces are HOA property.
Okay.
excluding glass is what it says. All exterior surfaces excluding glass. So that.
But the whole thing is, wait, what did Mitch say? Mitch said currently back doors are HOA covered based on construction defect lawsuit. Past boards have held off on replacement due to expense and dynamics. And there were like a handful of people who did get their doors replaced, and then that was like shut down.
Mitch, do you
So-
have any of that documentation? Because we haven't been able to get it from ACS or other board members. Do you have anything?
He said there were 14 replaced, no documents, just conversation in board meetings.
Yeah, that's where things get ugly.
Well,
I think there were like emails that went out to the community though about it, weren't there?
That was before I lived here, so I don't know.
I can do a deep dive in my
It's
Gmail
when
later.
It's when I was a renter, so I didn't get those.
oh. Well, this is, there's a few work orders like this that either, I mean, this will probably start the ball rolling with other people wanting that done too, which, as Mitch said, that's probably why it's been held off from previous boards, but we just need to, I don't know how to address it moving forward. It's, everything costs money. That's so. Do you want us just to follow up with the owner and tell him we're just investigating? Not sure yet.
Are they, which work order? Let me look. Which work order is it?
This one is to, I don't think I have that on there. All right. Oh, 2160. It's the Glaziers, Seth and Elise Glazier.
Mitch said several scenarios were discussed, special assessments, allowances, draining accounts to do it. Bids around about 1,300 per door for roughly 115K. Discussions were for doors, door jams, frames, and subfloor damage inside.
Yeah, so they're not asking for door replacement. In it, it says caulking and stucco is crumbling around it and there's a hole in the stucco.
Well, it says I was going to repaint my exterior door frame and realized it was rotten. Do I need to get approval to get the rotten door frame replaced? Is that an HOA, something the HOA would take care of?
Yeah, we're investigating that.
Here's the unwanted answer, right? Like our CCNRs say we cover it. We literally like cannot cover every single thing today.
No.
I mean, it's a crappy, it's a crapshoot.
Yeah. All right. Well.
And Mitch said exterior molding should be owner, but I don't know. I mean, that's where the exterior surfaces get. I know they've painted the exterior molding before the HOA, so.
Audio six appliances, old super receptacle. Just reading it. Well, we will reach out to the owner and tell them that the board's aware. If if they want to replace the door frame themselves, is the board okay with that?
I mean, like, I'll be completely honest. The reason I replaced my front door and the moldings and everything was because at a sports core meeting before I was on the board, Susan said that the front doors were now a free for all for everybody to do what they want. But my personal opinion is when you read the CCNRs and it talks about homeowner versus HOA responsibility, and it says all exterior surfaces excluding glass. To me, that is very clear. That's very straightforward. That's very easily understood. And stucco and door molding is an exterior surface. Now, where things for me get hairy is surface. So like where there's the metal behind the stucco, if that's has a problem with it, is that now homeowner responsibility? Or if the trim boards inside of the casing have issues, is that now homeowner responsibility? But as far as what is covered, all exterior surfaces excluding glass is very straightforward to me. But like Melissa's saying, you know, like we're sitting here having a conversation about special assessments and dues being raised. So it's hard to even approve anything more before we have a better understanding of where we are financially. But then as a homeowner that's been told no on things, it's frustrating as well.
Agreed. Well said, Sarah.
I think if it's something they want done like right now, I would have them do it. I would still, for your safety, and I would tell them this, like get, what word am I looking for, Sarah? Approval, get approval, so that the reason you go through that approval process is liability. You know, if things are damaged or you approved it and so one board says, you know, that's not good, you need to replace that. Well, this board approved it. It's just, I would have them get approval before they just go and do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Past doors required HOA approval and licensed and insured contractor. Right, okay. Revision of door restrictions was meant to be from the bylaw rewrite and allowances. Some went forward with replacements.
But there isn't a door restriction section in the bylaws.
No, that was in the rewrite that was never adopted or recorded.
Yeah, so we're getting real far down the untrailed path.
Yeah, okay, well, we'll reach out to the owner and let them know. Some of these, I guess, are just items that I feel like we just want to close out, but it doesn't seem like we're able to really do that right now. So, work order 1907. This is just an update where we talked about the handrails and looking into the other vendor to see their availability there. So that's still in process. So we'll reach back out to the board when we get a hold of the other vendor. The electric car charging stations work order, I did reach out last week to the owner and ask if this was still something she was interested in, and I haven't heard back from her. But in the meantime, HOA West is going to draft, I talked with Sarah about it, it's going to draft the just general policy on that and then present it for the board. We hadn't had time to draft it yet, so if she comes back and says she's not interested, we'll close out the work order, but we'll still draft that policy just so it's in place. Okay, then an update on the flashing and gutter bid for Tess Nelson. I got the bid from you guys for stucco repair for $14.50. I reached out to A1 who was going to do the roof repair last week, and he said he would get back to me Monday. So I did text him this evening, and he hasn't responded yet. So we will continue to follow up on that. But it does seem like, go ahead.
I was gonna say, this is something we gonna want to put a speed up on, because she's gonna be having surgery in August and doesn't, want to deal with workers coming in and out of her house.
Right, yeah.
So if we could maybe tell them we're kind of pressed for time.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Yeah, for sure. We will do that. Who was the one who reached out to, on the stucco repair, to the other group? To Jar Solutions? Is that you, Sarah?
I would have to look up, so let me. Yeah, so so the bid from Chris is, I think did we email you? The two I think we emailed you two. It might have only been one, or ones that I set up and got taken care of.
Yeah, I just got one for Jar Solutions, that you forwarded on last week, so.
Yeah, so that would be it then.
Okay. Okay, I have his email address. I was just wondering if he gave you any kind of timeline on scheduling, but we can reach out and find out from him.
Yeah, so when I talked to him and I said it would need to be done after the flashings are repaired, I'm pulling it up now. I'm pretty sure he said 3 to 4 business days afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what he said. But will you double check that, because we just want to make sure that, like Melissa said, she's having a major surgery, and it's not going to be a quick recovery. It's going to be a few months worth of recovery. And if we can get this done, since we've been working on it for months prior to that, I think that would really help her. Also, in conjunction with this work order, because of the way the flashings go, she does not have rear access to her home. It doesn't have a gate, and she backs up to the church. So the way the flashings have deferred the dirt and the water, it has clogged the track to her sliding back door. And so she is unable to open it. And that's another problem in and of itself that needs to be cleaned out for a myriad of reasons.
And we do have a separate work order for that, because once the work's done, we can go ahead and get it scheduled to be cleaned out. I've talked with Tess quite a bit, and so I know what's going on, and I understand why it's already hard for her to open that door, but it's going to be even harder after she has, or after September. So, okay. I will reach out again to Israel from A1 tomorrow, and we'll just call him multiple times, so get that scheduled. So on the concrete lifting, you guys are familiar with what, we talked about this before, but I did get, I know you guys were gonna look into getting a vendor. I did get a company called Slab Right. They're gonna go out and look at it tomorrow. So we'll get a bid on that, but.
I've got Coyote Concrete Lifting says that they can come out and do a bid Thursday. I just need a unit number to direct them to.
Okay, it is.
Oh, Jason, there, 3102.
Yeah.
Okay, so then Coyote Concrete Lifting will be out Thursday for a bid,
Okay,
and then
Are those two bids then? Up here. Okay. So that one's in process. Oh, there was the entryway painting. Okay. We're gonna have to come back on that one. The work order 2160 we talked about with the painting, so. Then, we had somebody ask to put bird spikes on the peak of their roof. Sure, where am I? Influx of birds landing on the peak of his roof. Does the board have any issues if he were to add bird spikes?
I just don't know how that's gonna filter into like roofs, gutters, stucco that are HOA property. Would it be the same as an approval for like a flagpole, that it's understood that any and all damage that can or will occur from it is homeowner responsibility?
Yeah. Yeah, much like installing a satellite dish or anything like that, yes. I will ask him also if he
That
has
says-
a sample or something that he could send.
Yeah, because it says, can I add the strips?
Yeah,
Yeah, I wouldn't feel comfortable with saying yes or no until we knew exactly like what he wanted, how he was planning on doing it, if he was doing it himself or if he was paying a company, how they were being attached.
right.
Yeah, I would say just have them submit all the documentation so we can properly review.
Right. Okay. Next, we had the rust removal on the stucco. I know the board talked about holding off on that until overall stucco came up in the reserve report. So I just wanted to, that's where we stand on that one.
When is that according to the reserve study?
Not, well, for next year.
Okay.
So you might want to, I don't know if we should start looking at vendors for that, so. Okay. And then the replacement carport doesn't have numbers that coincide with the house number for parking. We can go ahead and just have some put on. There's also, somebody submitted a work order that their parking number was incorrect. I don't know if you can see that one. And we can just have our maintenance guy could go out and probably fix that.
The numbers necessary for the covered parking. So Judy has actually made them out of permanent vinyl. The thing is the ladder that we had by the shed has grown legs and walked off and not come home. So if my ladder's tall enough, I know I can swindle my husband into doing that right quickly because it's just 4 stickers basically. If not, then we just need a ladder tall enough to do it.
Yeah, we might have we can have our maintenance guy look at it also when he drives through there and just see if his ladder would too. Does Judy just make those? I mean, I can email her and ask.
Yeah, she's already made them. She
did.
She reached out to me and asked if she could do so, and she's not expecting reimbursement or anything from it. It's just something that she had the means to do so, and so they are, like I said, they are cut and ready to be installed.
Okay. Well, I'll follow up with you on that, Sarah, and then on the 3896. That's the house, the parking number that is incorrect.
Okay, Mitch, I see that. I'll contact you after the meeting. He says that he's got a ladder.
Oh, good. Okay.
So then which painted stall is that what you're looking up now, Gina?
Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Turn out, and
I know it's Megan's on the side. I know which one it is.
Oh, okay.
You don't even have to look it up. I can just show you. Well, I guess
Oh,
if
there
you
it
need to
is.
know, Gina, or
It's 3896. Yeah. They said their unit number is 3896 and it says 2273 and it's painted 3898 instead of 3896.
their house is on the corner, and they have like their covered stall, and then around the corner is their not covered
Okay.
spot. So
I'll have our maintenance guy go out and just take a look and see what it would entail, because it could probably just be a really simple fix and we could just paint over
Yeah.
the 8 and then paint a new 6. So we'll follow up on that one. All right. That's all I had. I know those are the main ones that I had. Is there anything specific that you guys have a question on work orders that are outstanding, or?
Is there any way to, because there's like 9 pages of the work orders, like, is there any way to, I think I'm just reading really quickly to make sure I'm asking the question right. There's this, so many that are waiting.
Right.
Can we remove the completed one just to try and help streamline things to make it? Are
Yeah,
they
we
organized by
definitely can.
date or by number?
That list I sent to you, to the board, is actually organized in order of status, which might be kind of confusing. I can just take off all the completed ones. I just wasn't sure if that would be useful for you guys to see, so you knew if something had been finished or not. So we can just, like you said, streamline it. I'll send out a new report either tonight or tomorrow with those off. And I can also sort it by the date it was created. Would that help?
For me it would. I don't know if anybody else has an opinion, but
Okay. I know it ends up being kind of lengthy, but those status notes, that's what I really kind of wanted you to have access to, so you could see where it was. But otherwise, well, it's just a long report in general, but yeah, we'll streamline it. I can also export it to Excel if that's easier too.
I don't have a preference for that.
All right. So any other order items that you guys have heard about, talked about, that maybe we haven't addressed?
I don't.
Great. We talked about the Hunt Electric already, so I did want to give you an update, and I did, about the poles, that they are finished. So Zach's going to dig into that a little bit more, and we will get back to you on that one.
Okay. And then just Mitch was asking if we appointed somebody. So yeah, we appointed Annika, so she's going to fill that spot for the 8 or so weeks until the annual elections.
Okay. That's all I had from the HOA West side. I kind of did ask the board about any maintenance items, but this is your time. You can kind of, I had parking update on there twice. I don't know why, but so just disregard that. But just anything that you guys need from us. I know we talked about, well, we'll start with maintenance items. I won't jump clear down to C. So is there anything you guys want to go over with us?
Go over with you regarding maintenance and parking updates?
No, just maintenance. The parking update was a duplication. I apologize. I'll start twice. So just maintenance. Is there anything that we haven't addressed that the board wants to address, maintenance related? If not, we'll just go down to number C and just talk about maybe some solutions for, you want to just dive into that?
Do we want to what?
You just want to go to number C? I think we addressed the maintenance items that are outstanding right now, but do you want to, I just wanted to talk about different communications options. I know we talked about adding you to your own individual team. Zach and I also, there's a function in Appfolio where we can send out the work order list automatically. It could be done twice a month, once a month, but I feel like that way you could see where we are on some of those work orders. But we want to have good communication with you guys, so we're open to solutions.
So
Zach, I
is
don't know if you-
adding, go ahead.
I don't-
Side note, sorry, I accidentally dropped and now I'm back on, so carry on.
Zach, can you talk about how the teams would go, adding them to teams?
Sure. There's two options. Either we add a channel on the team that we already have set up for you guys, and it could be just board discussion items. The other option would be setting up a separate team in general that we can add board members and potentially anyone in the association too. And we can go through discussion points and discussion items on a daily basis. The only thing that would be something to note on with that is, depending on who's on the team and what information is put through there, obviously, if it becomes flooded with a lot of things, there has a potential of things getting lost. If it's kind of more geared towards specific items and following through on those items, it would be a little bit easier to track.
Yeah, I think that's what we want. Otherwise, there's just the management portal that everyone can use for, all the rest of their concerns. I think really it's the board that needs to be that next level of involvement.
Sure. And in adding a team, one of the things to be aware of is the team wouldn't be replacing the current submission for work orders. We'd still want you to use Appfolio to submit work orders. That way there's tracking through there. What the team could be used for could be status updates on those work orders.
Yes, and that's exactly what we want.
Okay.
So sometimes it gets, and I understand the reason behind the Davencourt Lehigh email address, and sometimes it gets confusing because we're not sure like who's sending this. I know it's on behalf of the board, but what is that the email address you want to be invited or tied into that, or do you want your own separate individual emails?
For that one, for like the work order thing that you're talking about, I would say our own, just whatever the solution is. So like what is hard for me, it's not necessarily like all the emails going into the Davencourt email. It's that I feel like things get addressed, but not fully. And then new things come up, so they get pushed down. And unless somebody remembers to bring it back up, it doesn't happen again for a decent amount of time. And so whatever the solution is to where we can talk about, we have a knowledge of which vendors have been reached out to, how they've been responsive or not responsive, just so that we're more understanding of where we are regarding the work orders versus waiting until we get the work orders right before a meeting and then have a meeting quarterly would be the most beneficial. I think what's hard is my personal opinion is that it's not that it's going to a shared email. It's that there are a lot of moving parts. And because of that, things do get washed aside. So whatever the solution is to help mitigate that is the solution I'm for.
Okay. Well, I think this would be a good start. We haven't done this with any other HOA, so you guys will be a good guinea pig for it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, Microsoft Teams is something new that we're implementing in-house and utilizing. So getting a separate team for the Davencourt board and owners, and what channels could be underneath there. There's always going to be a general channel. We could set up one specific for landscaping, reserve repairs, and then operation, like general operating repairs. And then kind of just the discussion points through that team would be related to those specific channels. If I don't know if anyone is familiar with Teams on the board.
I use it for work, but I've never used it for personal items, only work things.
I use it for work as well. So though coming to the personal email would be helpful because it's not my work email. Everything on my phone that's Teams related is related to work. It's not related to the board, and I wouldn't be switching that over because obviously I gotta work.
Can I just ask a quick question? About a month ago, this was a suggestion for us to like help with communication. And we had sent out an email about a month ago asking like, how can we stay better informed? These are things that we need. And it wasn't addressed. And I don't know if like you guys were just always planning on addressing it here tonight, like a month later, or what. I guess I'm just wondering why it like has been taking like a month to like get better communication.
I don't really have I don't remember that email, Melissa. Sorry. We get so many emails, and so if it wasn't addressed, I apologize.
The email she's talking about was sent, it's Monday, June 13th.
Okay.
And we sent it to both Gina, you, Zach, and Tom, just to try and help mitigate things. And I think the biggest key part in that email is like when we asked to have like financials before the meeting, like with enough time for us to review them as a board, and like to have work items as they come in versus right before the meeting, just so that we can have, so it's not like sprung on us during the meeting, and we could have a dialogue and questions between like us and you guys, and then between us as a board on what we want to do moving forward.
Right.
And then didn't Jess have a phone call with you guys about it, about the Teams?
Yeah, we did talk about that. I'm just looking in my emails. What was the title of that one, Sarah?
It was under a chain for Davencourt vendors, and it starts with hello, Zach.
Yeah.
And so
Okay,
then
I
there
do
was
remember
response
that
to that chain, just not to that email and that ask for solutions.
So since we're kind of all like collaborating on this, it would be, there's a lot of emails that get added to an unrelated email with a different subject. And it would be really helpful for us if we could, but I do remember that email specifically, because just so.
Hey, wait, finish your sentence. It'd be helpful if what?
If we could have like an email chain doesn't, like, if you want to address a new item, bring it up in a new email.
With the new subject line.
Yeah, we totally get that. I think the email that we were responding to was sort of all inclusive and related to these topics, which is why we responded that way to that one. But I totally get what you mean. And I think that integrating the use of Teams would also be a helpful solution for these kinds of issues. So I think.
Okay,
Yeah, and two kind of more on Melissa's question. Obviously, we don't want to just react. So it has taken a little bit of time, and it has been a discussion point that we have talked about in-house on where to go, what to do with communication, so that it is a little bit more beneficial for both sides. And obviously, this meeting is a great time for us to kind of finalize a decision. So Teams is kind of where the board all sits. We can get that started and rolled out, at least within the week, because we'll have to look at our teams and kind of pin together what it should look like and what's going to be beneficial with that. And then also getting a list of who is going to be added to that team.
Billy, did I understand you right that the Teams isn't a solution for you because of work?
I think Billy had to drop.
It is. I transferred to my phone.
Oh,
It is a solution. I'm just saying it's not something that I'd have to intentionally go in. So if I'm looking for something, I don't mind going there. It's just the means that I have it set up on my cell phone and on my work laptop and on my personal laptop all drive me to my work Teams environments, not to personal Teams environments.
So Billy,
So,
since you have experience with that, do you think that is a solution as far as tracking things and keeping track of where we are as far as vendors and communications, or is it?
I think it is. The thing about Teams is if you muddle the pot, then you have all kinds of communication flying everywhere. So I think it should only be for the board. So that way, as the community may be asking us questions specifically about work orders that are outstanding, and we're not waiting until the next meeting to get that information, that can be a place where we can go and maybe ask questions. But I would agree with, I believe it was Gina's point, or maybe it was Zach's, to continue to drive the community as a whole through the portal. So when it comes to setting up work orders, asking questions in that nature through there. But this just gives the board some more insight on the back ends of what's going on in the work order. So I think it could be a feasible environment.
Okay. And Zach, you were saying you think you could get that done within a week?
Yeah, obviously, it could be done potentially sooner. I think the biggest thing would be then, okay, what emails are going to be used for the board members?
may I have your individual emails that you have in the portal now, so we could use that if you'd like.
okay. That sounds great. And then we'll just get Annika's information and send that to you as well.
Okay. Okay. Well, I feel better about that. So I think, yeah, we'll get that set up and reach out to you on how to access it. That's all we had from our side for the main portion of the meeting. I know Zach and I can go over delinquencies also after when we close the session, but is there anything you guys want to open up? Any questions from owners? I don't have anything else, so.
I've got a quick question. Sorry, am I being unmuted? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Well, I'm just curious about this, and I'm just offering a second opinion that may have little worth, but like the Teams thing, right? That's a great space to collaborate with people, and essentially all it keeps is a log of your communication, right? You can set up different channels to different people and different topics, and you're going to have a communications log on there. It doesn't seem like the best space to stay organized around things like work orders and ticket submissions and things like that. I mean, there's a Google Doc that's already happening where you can do things like update statuses, last communication, next steps. Like if something like that were updated and shared, it feels like that'd be way better way to stay organized around those types of things as opposed to a log of communication. Now, I'm not the one that has to use it, so I don't really care. I'm just throwing out there, like in my experience, what I would think would be a better way to stay organized around work orders as opposed to a communication log. I think Teams is a great place to collaborate between any groups of individuals. It doesn't, if I were on the board, I don't know that that would be the solution I would be looking for. Now I'm not, so my opinion doesn't matter, and I will mute myself again, but just throwing it out there.
No need for that, Dorian. Thank you. I do kind of agree. I feel like Teams is gonna maybe sort of end up like our email situation, where once something's addressed, it goes further down the page, and then when new things are addressed, that gets to the top of the page. So it's sort of essentially like our email inbox. I would be open to finding an alternate solution, I guess is what I'll say. I would still obviously appreciate the direct communication that Teams provides. But as far as tracking, I think Dorian makes a really good point.
Well, and I don't think, I mean, it was more just for, so the board had more information, because we still will be tracking work orders in our work order system. It was just in order to give the board information, so.
I'm not familiar with either of those things, so like I don't have an opinion. Whatever, wave a magic wand. What I would just like to know is just like what is happening on the back end, like through HOA West, like when we have a work order, and it's been decided that we're going to contact a vendor, just like when the vendor was contacted, how they were contacted, what the follow-up was, just so that we can understand what's going on with things like that in regards to knowing well beforehand, as far as the meeting, what is taking place and what needs to take place moving forward with that action item.
Okay. Well, Zach, what's your feeling? I mean, we've used it, track things now internally with like different HOAs, so.
I'm kind of unsure in terms of tracking to where Dorian was sitting. The Google Docs would at least allow kind of tracking of items that are happening and getting processed. But to Sarah's point, Teams would allow us to kind of send those updates. Hey, work order, this work order's been completed. This has been completed. Here are the bids that we've received. So they both have pros and cons, and I'm not too sure. I guess it would be kind of more on what if the board would like more of a log of tracking on communication, then Teams would be a better choice. If it would be more of here are the items that have been approved, here are the bids, this is the upcoming cost, this is when it's scheduled to happen, potentially the Google Docs would be better. So I'm not too sure. I mean, there is a little bit of functionality inside of Teams of adding certain tasks and tracking things that way.
True. I honestly think that whatever we all decide to do, we can make the most of and the best of. So I don't know if that's gonna be up to you guys of what you would prefer, or I don't know if the board specifically has a preference. I think we just always are striving to improve communication. So however we can do that, let's do it.
Well, I think, like I said, we haven't done this with any other HOAs. We were just trying to, you know, find a solution. So the worst that could happen is it doesn't work and we go for another solution. So I'm open to trying it.
So then, go ahead, Zach.
Well, what I was going to say from our standpoint, that what's easiest is we already have teams. Going forward with teams would be easiest for us because we are using it every day. And it's something that we can put in there and track easier than, oh, wait, let's go back and check a Google Doc.
Okay, let's do it. Let's try it. We'll see how it goes and we'll all try our best. And like Gina said, if it doesn't work out, we'll find something else.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I think it's fair to like let it ride until mid to end September when we have our annual meeting and then discuss it then. I think that should be a fair amount of time to understand whether or not it's an improvement or worse.
Okay, sounds good. Anything else before we close the meeting?
You mean from like homeowners or from the board?
Either.
Okay.
Last call of open session.
Okay. We'll adjourn the regular session at 7:50 and I'll start uninviting people. If you guys want to get off if you're not a board member, thanks for joining.
We really appreciate you all for being on here. Thank you.
That was fast, that people got off. So Zach, I'm just gonna pull up the delinquency. Is that what you want to see and just go through that? Or do you just want to talk about it?
You could pull up the delinquency. Let me, all the other developments are on there, so.
Oh, no, can I just do a pull over a current report from right now?
Sure, that would
Or
work.
do you want your notes?
Well, I can go off of my notes based off the report.
Okay. I'm gonna stop the recording, by the way.